get a really good job in finance. I was like, I just cannot work with my dad. It was a lot of character development.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all of my amazing ideas? You just have to be the fun. Oh girl, we've not been here before. Work.
One piece of advice that you would give someone who's just starting out in business, what would that be?
Coffee with a Female Founder is where we have honest conversations about everyday business with the women behind it. I'm Amy, your host and founder of Course Studio, a marketing and business consultancy, and The Female Founder, a community-driven learning platform. Each episode will chat over a coffee with a different female founder, diving into their challenges, wins, lessons learned, and the advice they wish they had when starting out. The coffee is delivered to us courtesy of vexcoffee.com, which is the UK's freshest coffee discovery club. Every month, they expertly handpick 2 small independent coffee roasters for you to explore. They've been kind enough to give our listeners 25% off your first box using the code FEMALEFOUNDER or using the link in the show notes.
Welcome back to Coffee with a Female Founder. On today's episode, we have Andrea Manguera, who is a business owner of 2 completely different businesses, Mama Soul Food, a restaurant, and that I have had many takeaways from, and Sirens Pole Fitness. So welcome.
Thank you.
Before I get started, I need to talk to you about Mama Soul Food because it is the best seafood boil I've ever had, and it's such a treat takeaway that I have. And I had it before I even knew you, which is so interesting. And then when I found out that you were the co-founder of Mama Soul Food, I was a little bit of a fangirl.
Did you get me on here for some free seafood?
100%. I'm surprised you didn't bring any now. I'm eating the crab's legs right now. So thank you so much for being on here. So you're a business owner of 2.
Yeah.
What on earth is that like?
Do you know what? I didn't ever think I'd be a business owner. That was the last thing I was thinking about when I was at uni. Yeah, I was like, do you know what? I'm ready to graduate, get a really good job in finance and, just climb the corporate ladder. And then, especially in uni, that's when you start to realise certain things about yourself. So it's like, okay, I'm very ADHD. I need to be on the go a lot. I'm very hyperactive. So it just went the complete opposite way. I went from not wanting to be a business owner to not being able to be still. And then when I also found out that I could actually do more than one thing at once, that was a game changer.
That's amazing. So you did finance at uni then?
Yeah, accounting and finance.
That's mental.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you've got to know a lot about finance to be a business owner, but is there any other transferable skills that you found?
Yeah, so much. I feel like even with just everyday budgeting, even though I did accounting and finance, I was still horrible at that after uni. But I feel like you start to settle into yourself a little bit more as you get older, and you might not notice those transferable skills straight away, but when you have your own place and then you're budgeting for this and that and other things, then you actually start to realise, whoa, like this has actually really paid off.
Yeah. So do you hire an accountant or are you the accountant?
So we have an accountant for mamas, and then for Sirens it is me, yeah.
So talk to me about that journey. So you left uni.
Yeah.
Did you have a full-time job or did you go straight into being a business owner?
So I actually did. I was actually in retail for a little bit.
Yeah.
I was at Foot Asylum.
Nice.
And I feel like retail really grounds you as a person as well.
Oh yeah, everyone has to go through it at some point, don't
It's like a rite of passage. So I did that for a little bit. And I remember just before lockdown was hitting and just before we opened the business, I remember my sister and my mum being like, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, this is not the time for this conversation. We're literally about to go into lockdown. I think I have a bit more time. So at that point, I was just floating a little bit, trying to figure it out, because I always knew from the beginning that I didn't want to be in finance. It was more so, I feel like that's what my parents wanted. And when you come from an ethnic background, that's kind of like the unspoken rule. We're going to go to a different country, but you need to make sure you complete all your studies.
Yeah.
So there was that. And also my dad was in banking.
Okay.
So that was like kind of
Just
like,
in
okay,
the
let me
family.
just slip into that. But yeah, that wasn't for me. So then after retail, he was like, let's open a food business. And I was like, that's so random. Why? And he was like, why not? Like, we love food. We're so passionate about it. And yeah, we don't have that much hospitality skills, but we'll figure it out. So that was brutal for me because I think at the time I was like 22, I'm going to say 23, and I was still full-time. We'd opened this food business. It wasn't actually Mama's. We had a different one before that, and it was like a Brazilian kind of Portuguese food brand at Hatch in Manchester before Hatch closed down. And we just went in like swinging, and then we had our launch party, which was amazing. That was a sellout. And then I think a week later, we got the news that, okay, lockdown's hit. Everybody has to close. And it's like, no way. So we had to go back to the drawing board. And we were like, the only way that we're going to survive is if we move everything to a ghost kitchen. Because at the time, you could still get takeaways and things like that. Then from there, that's how Mama's started to silently grow. And I feel like the Portuguese brand was the first time, in a sense of, we've made all of our mistakes. It was a disaster, in fact. Like, yes, the kind of concept was brilliant, but operationally, like, we just had no idea what we were doing. So from there, we started again, but with what we've learned, we put into Mama's. So that was more of a passion project, which is why I think maybe it did so well, because at the time, you couldn't really go into the centre of Manchester and get a seafood boil. A few years ago, that wasn't really a thing. Or you couldn't get, you know, kind of dishes, like a fusion of dishes from anywhere. It was more so like, this restaurant does this brand does this, and we wanted to mix it all together, because especially late at night, that's kind of what you want sometimes. Like,
Picky bits.
yeah, exactly. So we started building it together. I spent sometimes like 7-8 hours in that kitchen trying to perfect that mac and cheese.
Wow.
We did so much research, so much development, and then I was also learning about marketing at the time, so I did a marketing course, and that helped with the branding. Then I think after a year, I was like, I just cannot work with my dad. I cannot work with my dad. So I was like, I'm just going to have to go off and do my own thing for a bit. Went back to corporate, actually, but it was marketing, so I feel like it still helped.
Yeah.
And then we came back together after a year, and we were like, let's do this. And then things really started kicking off. One of our videos on TikTok got like 2.1 million likes.
Wow.
And then from there, it went crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's really popular now.
Yeah.
It's quite big on socials, which is amazing. So the marketing course obviously helped.
It did.
So you mentioned obviously working with your dad. I was going to ask, is it a family-run business?
Yeah.
What is that like? What were the challenges?
At first, the first time around, I was like, I'm never going to do this again, ever. But this time around, I feel like I also got a bit of real life experience having that year not working with him. He was continuing growing Mama's and our other brands, and you know, I was back in corporate, and it also makes you really appreciate that person as much as they're driving you crazy. It's also nice because I'm sure that you've worked somewhere where you're thinking, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm alone here. Like, you know, it's nice to have somewhere where you don't feel like you're alone. And corporate can be very intense sometimes. And, you know, it kind of really pushes on that feeling. So it's not to say that I felt so alone that I didn't have anyone, but you do realize in those moments where it's like, I do have people, but no one's ever going to care as much as my dad did. You know, so all the times where you're thinking, he was so hard on me and he doesn't understand, and, you know, this isn't going well. And it was more so he was pushing me in the right direction. So it's like, when you do get out there, you're going to be able to accomplish anything you want, whether it's going to be at Mama's or it's going to be somewhere else. I just want you to be ready.
Yeah.
But you don't really understand that when you're working with the person, because it just feels like that pressure, that intensity, like you don't want to let me breathe. That's another thing I feel like people don't talk about enough, that, you know, running a business is so glamorized, but there's also kind of the dark side of it, which is like you finish work and you can't switch off. You're just like on the sofa rocking yourself back and forward, feeling guilty about all the things that you kind of should be catching up on. But you're also like, but at the same time, my favorite season just dropped on Netflix. What am I going to do? You know, most of the time I feel like I've gotten to a point where I'll do both now. So I'll be catching up with my work, but I'll also have my show in the back. But when you're younger, it feels so much more intense. Like I was at the beginning of my 20s where all of my friends were going out and let's go and do this and let's go and do that. And I was just working really long hours at the kitchen. And then after that, okay, we still have marketing, we still have this idea, we still have that. So it just felt like, whoa, like, am I going to wake up and I'm 35 and I've like missed all of my 20s?
Yeah.
But I feel like we are also our worst enemies. So we make it so much worse in our heads, and it's not that bad. It's just, it was a lot of character development. It was a lot of character development. But my dad is my biggest rock, and
That's so good.
I think now we have such a solid business relationship and personal relationship because of the experience that we went through. And it's also nice to have a mentor. I feel like I'm at a point in my journey where I also don't know if anyone else truly would be able to push me and help me like my dad does, you know, because even if you do have a mentor, it might be like, oh, I don't want to cross that line, or I don't really want to say that sort of stuff. But because it's my dad, it's like, I'm going to say what I feel like I need to say for your best interest. And that's something that's really helped me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So has your dad owned businesses before? Is this his first journey too? So you've just kind of both been learning together, getting really stuck in, which sounds like you're literally rolling your sleeves up and getting involved in every single part of the business. Can't believe that you've made the mac and cheese, because the mac and cheese smacks. So well done.
Thank you.
Well done. So that's Mama Soul Food.
Yeah.
Where does Sirens come into all of this?
So Sirens was actually something that was never supposed to be a business.
Okay.
But it was something that just kind of unraveled. And I feel like it also helped because I had a bit of experience from Mama's up my sleeve at that point. However, it also was a completely different industry for me. And it actually started off when I left Mama's.
Okay.
So, so it's funny because it's actually a product of also me kind of cheating on Mama's, but I love them both. So when I left that year, one of the things that I was freelancing for a little bit. So one of the things that I did is I was working at a pole studio, GFF, and at the time I was their marketing manager. So that was one of the first times I actually tried the pole, and I loved it. And there was a lot of ideas that I had naturally, and you know, it's also really hard. I feel like a lot of people also don't talk about coming from being in your own business and having all the creative freedom to then going back to working for somebody, and it's like naturally you have less creative freedom, and you're kind of like like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do with all of my amazing ideas? So that's how I felt. And obviously they had their own direction of doing things, and it's been working for them. So of course, but it got to a point where I was like, I kind of want to do this my own way. And I also noticed there was a gap in the market. Ethnic girls and fitness, so random, but that was something when I was looking through all the pole studios, that was something that Damien used to say to me, like, I want to make it more inclusive, like we also need to get more ethnic girls in. And obviously there's already naturally this stereotype sometimes, in a sense where ethnic girls can be curvier, so they feel like things like pole fitness might look inappropriate on me, or it's not going to look athletic, it's going to, do you know, give off a different vibe, or I don't want to get in trouble at work. And I feel like those are also stereotypes that I just wanted to kill and show them, no, like, you have every right to be doing this as everyone does.
Of course.
So it's just about creating that space where there was also more representation, and they saw more girls that looked like them, and they saw every kind of girl. So it's kind of like, it's not just ethnic girls and non-ethnic girls, like we're all girls here together in this space doing this together, and it's more of a community.
That's
so
amazing.
At the time I also really struggled with my eating. And I think that this also came from the original stress of the business. And it's so weird, but my brain convinced me that whenever you're around food, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling stressed. So then naturally, even if I wasn't kind of at the business, I would still be a bit on edge. So I hadn't found my flow yet. So then I just kind of convinced myself that was the case. And I've always ate so much, hence why we also did end up opening a food business. But around that time, the stress just wouldn't let me. And it just got to a point where I was like, I actually don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And I'm such an adrenaline junkie that when I did pole, I was like, I love this. But then naturally I realized, you know what, I need more energy to keep doing this. So I'm going to have to find a way to figure out this eating thing. And slowly I did. And then I also joined personal training and things like that. And that really helped. So from there, a few ladies started coming to me and being like, I want to learn. So I got a pole at home as well. That was the first thing. I got a pole in my living room. And sometimes I'd be making my food and pushing myself and like jumping on the pole like, you got this. So from there, people started noticing that I started pole. And at the time, there also wasn't that many people besides the big giants like GFF or like different pole studios doing that. So I think that was also another kind of way for girls to kind of come in, because it's like, there's not that pressure of going to this class full of people. I can just come come and do it with you in your living room.
Yeah. It's
you know,
all
so
intimate
it was intimate, it was casual. And that's when I realised that's the kind of experience that the ladies want. Intimate, I'm your best friend, we're just in my apartment, it's chill. So even though I have the big group classes now at the studio, I still go off that model that is like, I want it to be intimate, I want us all to, you know, low lights, like not too bright, cash, very like girl talk, very sleepover vibes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how Sirens was born. And then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was like, whoa.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you talk about food and fitness, and they kind of do
go hand in hand,
but they are very different types of businesses.
Yeah.
How do you manage both of them?
So I feel like at the beginning I didn't. I felt very guilty because I felt like, okay, I'm doing mamas, I don't have time for Sirens. I'm doing Sirens, I feel like I don't have time for mamas. But I think I just had to learn to find a structure for myself that worked. So, for example, Monday through Friday, I'm at mama's. Half of that week I'll be working from home. And then the rest of the week I'll be on site, making sure that everything's sorted for the weekend, everything's ready. And then after that, I'll teach. So I'll have like a one-to-one. And then on the weekend, every 2 weeks, I'll also have a big group class. And then in the middle of that, I'll just mix and match between doing marketing and admin for mamas, and then doing marketing and admin for Sirens. So it's like we also said, because they do go hand in hand, it's just about finding that structure that works. So my life is food, fitness.
Yeah.
And yeah.
How on earth do you find time for yourself during all that?
You just have to be the fun. You know?
I love that.
You literally have to be the fun. And I used to, that's when, at the beginning of my journey, that's what I used to always say to my dad, like, I'm not going to have a personal life.
Yeah.
I'm going to disappear. Like, no one's going to remember me. And now it's like, no. So it's like, you just have to be the fun. So Friday, for example, I'll have my day at mama's. Then I'll finish mama's. I'll come home for 2-3 hours. Then we have like bachata classes, some Spanish bachata classes in the building on the second floor. So then we'll come back, we'll have a little drink, we'll go up, go to the bachata classes, romanticize life, wake up the next day, just get on with it. Like any time you have to have fun, like you have to take that. You can't think, oh, I'm going to try and do this next week or do that the week after, because when you're running businesses, it doesn't work like that. You might have to shift things around.
Yeah.
So you just have to be the fun.
That's amazing. I love that. Interestingly, when looking at kind of both Instagrams, Sirens, you're very much the face of Sirens. Your face is all over the Instagram. But then mamas, you're not. And obviously they are different industries, so I kind of understand to a certain extent. But founder-led brands are now such a big trend at the moment. Was that intentional that you've kind of pulled back a little bit from mamas, but you're all over it on Sirens?
Yeah. So I think with Sirens, I am the brand. So it's like I'm teaching the girls the way that I treat the girls, the way that I interact with the girls. That is all a massive thing. And we are in a time where everyone's looking for an experience rather than just the service. You know, if you went to 2 different shops and you bought 2, like the same pair of shoes, but one shop they treated you so much better, you're just naturally going to remember that shop because of the service. So I think that's what it is. With mamas, it's more about letting the food speak for itself. And it's also very community led. So I do have the girls on Sirens, like after our classes and stuff, but I want the page to be filled with people trying the food. And, you know, we get so much more of that where nowadays we don't have to set up too many collabs, because we'll either get a random request, this person's just invited you to collaborate on a reel, and it's like they came to Mama's last week and they bought it themselves, and then they also did a video on top of that. And a lot of those people, we will invite them to come back and be like, we want to do another collab with you. And, you know, the food's on us, because even them taking the time out to do that for us is so special, and it shows us that we're on the right track. And it is just more so, about the community. And we love little things like stories. People will DM us and say, I've gone into labour and I've had my baby and I want a seafood boil. Is there any way you can drive down to Birmingham? It's crazy, but this is my craving. So things like that. I want it to be about the people. Yeah.
That's really good, because both businesses are very community driven then. Again, that's something that you've put at the forefront of both. How do you... Obviously, you're marketing both of them. How do you push community on Sirens versus Mama Soul Food, or are they very similar?
So with mamas, it's that kind of universal thing that we may all speak different languages, come from different places, but the experience of sitting with someone that you love and you care about over a hot plate of food, that is universal.
Of course.
Everyone understands that feeling. So that's what we try and push across. With Sirens, it's more so about me being the test dummy, I think.
Okay.
That's my strategy, because obviously people will see the videos and be like, yeah, you know, you look good doing that, but will I? You know, so that's more about helping people feel more comfortable to just get started.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest thing that I find to do through Sirens. But once I have a one-on-one with that person and I get to know them and they get to know me, and then they're like, no, I'm never going to be able to do that move. And then by the end of the class, they've done that move and they just light up.
Yeah.
That's that moment for me. So I feel like you said, it is the same thing. It's just two different moments that we're trying to capture within each brand.
Yeah. Incredible. You obviously talk a lot about self-confidence. Has there been moments for you where you've probably not felt that confident, especially as a female business owner?
Every day.
Yeah, I know.
Every day. I think that's something that comes with it, that you have to keep pushing the boundaries as a person. And I feel like at this point in my journey, I've realized I don't feel that confident sometimes because I'm stepping into that new version of myself that's very unfamiliar. And it's like, oh, girl, we've not been here before, you know? So it's scary. And as humans, we are just naturally scared of the unknown.
Yeah.
But I think it's just gonna sound so cliche, but it's just fake it till you make it, you know? Because most of the time, it's also just in our head. Nobody's looking at us thinking, she can't do that. You know, most of the time they're just worried about what's going on with them. So it's mostly coming from an internal place where we're thinking we can't do it. But again, it's more so like, let's try. So I think that's the approach that I take now, that I still do have my imposter syndrome all the time, but I also think, what's the worst that can happen at this point? I've gotten this far.
Exactly.
I think I'm doing something right.
100%.
So, yeah.
You have two very successful businesses, so every time that you have that imposter syndrome, you need to be like, no, I'm a multi-business owner, so I can do this. I love it. So in terms of finding your rhythm and creating those boundaries, what tools have you found that has helped you?
You have to keep adjusting. That's the first thing. I think where I was going wrong in the past was, this is the routine I've set for myself for the next 2 weeks, and if I don't stick to it, I'm a failure. That's not how life is. You know, we're always constantly having to juggle things around, even whether you're a business owner or you're not a business owner. It's just how life is. It's the rhythm of life. So I think it is just also being intentional with your time. I think that's so important. So when you do have that time to do what you want to do, unwind, stay away from things like, I'm going to brain rot on my phone for like 2-3 hours. And we all love a good brain rot. I love a good brain rot. However, you'll get caught in a loop where you've said to yourself, I want to do something, I want to watch my favorite show, or I want to wash my hair, or I want to get my laundry done, or I want to go out for a nice meal. And then you've come home, you're trying to escape, and therefore you're going to brain rot for 2-3 hours, and then you're going to think about all the things that you haven't done, and then you're going to get into that loop. It's like, no, being intentional about your time. I can brain rot when I've done everything I needed to do, but right now I'm going to do the things that I love. One of those things, aside from pole, is also exercise. Going to the gym is so important for me. It feels like a reset, even though whenever I'm walking to the gym, I don't want to go to the gym.
Of course, who does?
Exactly. But I used to work with this lady. She had an aesthetics company, and she had a client who came in, and she was like, we go to the gym because we have to. We don't go to the gym because we want to. And I think that applies with a lot of things in life. We should do those things because they're good for us, even if it doesn't feel good in the moment. And it's like, the easiest thing is to just lie here. After you do those things, you are going to have a bunch of those happy hormones. You're going to feel like you've accomplished something. You're going to feel like, this is what I wanted to do and I've done it. And that's going to be the energy that is going to keep you going with the rest of your tasks and the rest of the things that you need to do. It's about prioritizing. And I think my dad was very extreme with that at the beginning, which is, I feel like, why I was like, I don't want to be like you.
Yeah.
Because he was like, work, 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 work. But I think even now, after I've put this structure in place, he's also like, okay, Friday night bachata, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go do that. So it is just having that balance.
Yeah. So you feel like you've rubbed off on him then?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're quite open about burnout. What have you recognised in yourself as an early stage business owner about protecting your energy?
So I think the first most important thing is be around the right people. Even just being around the wrong people can really burn you out, because you're taking so much of that energy that you shouldn't be taking, that you could be using for other things. That's the first thing. If you're around people that are supportive and they know what you need and, you know, they're there to help you, then it's also going to feel like, okay, I have people I can lean on. Because that's also another big thing, feeling like you don't really have anyone that you can lean on.
Yeah.
Find your tribe, find people that you can lean on, and don't feel guilty about it. Because a lot of the times we're like, we have to do everything ourselves. We don't have to do everything ourselves. So that's something that I'm getting better at. Another thing is, as a business owner, you think, I can cram everything into one day.
Yeah.
It's like you'll just wake up and have like 3 weeks worth of tasks that you've like, I've not done this. And you're like, but guess what? I'm going to do it today. And it's like, that is the worst mistake, because I think the procrastination eats you up way before you even finish a few of those tasks, where you'll get the first one done, you'll get the second one done, you'll get the third one done. And then you're like, oh, this took so much longer than I thought it would. And now I'm just sat here, I'm hungry, I'm demotivated, I just want to get under an electric blanket and just forget about the rest of the tasks. So I think setting realistic tasks is really important, because you're not going to feel mentally drained at the end. You're going to feel good. You're going to be like, okay, do you know what? I assigned this many tasks and I've got them done, and tomorrow I'm going to do this, and then the next day I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to have a full day off and not feel guilty about it. So I think it's, as business owners, we do like to think that we're superhuman. And yeah, to some extent we are. But at the same time, we are human. We are still human. And it's important to not go above your capacity all the time.
Yeah.
We all have days where sometimes we're having a long day in the office, or we've got a lot going on that week. But it's so important not to keep that consistent every single week. I think it's also really important to do little things like go on a walk really far away from the city centre, things like that. Like activities that are really grounding, because even just being in the city day in, day out, that also takes a toll on you, which is why I like Oldham.
Yeah, get yourself to Oldham, everyone.
So things like that, like we go for a walk with the dog. It's at this park, I forgot the name of the park, but it's massive. Parts of it even feels like a little jungle, and just breathing in that air that's not city air is like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like you feel like you're an avatar, you know? So I like stuff like that. I like biking, I like hiking, I like things that remind me that I'm human and I'm not just in go mode. That's a big part to burnout. Another big thing, eating well. Eating well is so important, because
all the seafood boils, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Because even though I work in food, there was a period where I always would convince myself, I don't have time to eat.
Oh, really?
I don't have time to eat. I just have to do this. I just have to do that. And then there's also this thing where you spend too long around the food, you also then don't have an appetite. So it's balancing things like that. So I do kind of multitask now. So I'll be on my last task before I'm leaving the site, and I'm like, can you prepare this for me? And then by the time I've done my last task, I go and pick up my food, I go home, and Bob's your uncle. So things like that. I think it is about writing a list of what you need to feel regulated and sticking to that list, because I think we give so much to other people and we don't see ourselves in that way, but we should, because the people who love us the most see us in that way too. It's like we're just not kind enough to ourselves. And I think it's just being comfortable with being nice to ourselves. I feel like we kind of live in a society a little bit when you are nice to yourself, it's like, oh, you know.
It's really difficult to do, isn't it? Yeah.
And you kind of feel guilty about it when you are doing that. But that is self-care, and it is so important.
Absolutely. Mama Soul Food and Sirens, where do you see those going?
So for Mamas, we are about to open another site. And
Are
that's
you?
really, really exciting
Is it in
stuff.
Oldham? Please say it's in Oldham.
I wish it was. So that's really exciting stuff. We're like 2 months away from doing that.
Incredible.
So this year has been just focusing on that, making sure everything's ready. There's always setbacks, as you know, but it's just about being the fun during the setbacks, like we said. And then with Sirens, I would love to actually make this a lifestyle. So I'm going in a direction of well-being retreats for the girls.
Oh, wow.
I think that would be amazing. So in my list of things that I've done in my very long yet short life, I was also a travel agent at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So many skills.
So that's something that helps because I felt like I was always sitting on that a little bit because I didn't truly have time. When Mamas really started taking off and then I started building Sirens, I was like, okay, I can't do everything. One thing's going to have to go on the back burner, and it was the travel. But now that I'm thinking about the retreats, I can use that so I can get like exclusive deals with accommodations, airlines, Formula One, anything.
Wow.
So I'm going to do that and get some locations, get a villa here, get a little cabin there, like have some poles up, have a hot tub, make it a whole retreat, eventually take it abroad, get the girls doing some yoga on the beach. Hopefully also push into nightlife a little bit because I do feel like nightlife is dying. I used to love going out, but now I'll just take an electric blanket and Netflix and a glass of wine. And that's my version of going out. So I do feel like there is potential still. I think we just need to change the scene a little bit. And I do think that entertainers, performers, silks, pole, anything, I feel like that is the next best thing. Like if you're out and, you know, instead of just everyone kind of just standing there against the wall with their drink, I do feel like it would hype it up a little bit if there was just a girl in a hoop flying around or, you know, things like that. So that's what I'm exploring. I feel like it will take a few years. I was going to open a studio initially. That was something. But once we decided to open the second site with Mamas, I was like, okay, again with that, it's just going to be too much to deal with at the moment. But I think it's also good that I didn't, because if I then had the studio, it would have been trickier to do the retreats. So I think everything worked out the way it's supposed to. And that's the plan.
It's amazing when it all aligns and all comes together, isn't it?
Exactly.
So you've given loads of advice through all of that. I'm going to take so much away. But if you could kind of wrap it up into one piece of advice that you would give someone who's just starting out in business, what would that be?
I would say, don't be too hard on yourself and be committed to lifelong learning. Because if you're always going to be a student, that means you're always going to learn more and more and more. And if you're too hard on yourself, there's times where you're just going to paralyze yourself and you're not going to be able to push forward and learn more. So it's like you're on your journey. You don't need to get there tomorrow, but enjoy the journey, because when you get to where you want to be, you're going to look back and be like, oh, maybe the best part about all of this was the journey.
That's amazing. Because I think everyone, I mean, myself included, you always look ahead and you always look at the end goal and what's to come and the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Then you forget how far you've come. I mean, I can look back even 6 months ago and I'm like, my word, like, I'm sat here, what have I created? And it's amazing. And I think we forget to do that so often. So that is amazing advice. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'll have a seafood boil for you next time.
Absolutely. I'm so excited.
Coffee with a Female Founder is hosted by me, Amy Cole. If you're interested in finding out more about the female founder, sign up to the waitlist at www.thefemalepounder.co.uk. The podcast is recorded and produced by QPod Productions in Oldham, Greater Manchester. For more information, visit kupod.co.uk. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you give us a like, share and follow. If you would like to feature as a guest, please email amy@thefemalepounder.co.uk.